Welcome to this episode of Eureka. We have with us Dr. P. Uday Kumar, Senior Deputy Director, National Institute of Nutrition. Nutrition is one of the major challenges that is facing India today. It may be for some absence of it, for some too much of it. That's what we are going to discuss in this program. And before we enter into the program, let's take a short look at his profile.
Dr. P. Uday Kumar has been closely associated with National Institute of Nutrition for almost 25 years. Holding various important portfolios, Dr. Kumar has been tirelessly working in the field of nutrition. His areas of research are nutrition and cancer, nutrition and toxicology. As a toxicopathologist, he looks into the hematology, clinical pathology and histopathological aspects. Dr. P. Uday Kumar received Medical Innovation Fund in 2009 to carry out research in human cancer. He was awarded Norman Borlaug Fellowship by USDA in 2011 with respect to techniques for assessing allergenicity of GM crops.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for joining with us. We are very thankful for your time.
Thank you.
I'm sure the audience are going to be very benefited by this discussion that we are going to have today about your work, your institution's work, and about nutrition. People say we are becoming the world capital in diabetics. Large number of people are getting into diabetics. At the same time, almost for about the last 150 years, we have been also one of the nation with huge number of people without nutrition, undernutrition population. It appears to be that we are carrying right now two burdens.
True.
What do you say about that?
What you said is absolutely true. On one side, we have the perennial problem which is going on for the past few decades, that is undernutrition. And unfortunately, according to the statistics that we have, under 5 nutritional status is what decides how the individual is going to develop in the future. In fact, I would say that it starts when the child is in the mother's womb itself. Where they call it the, according to Barker's hypothesis, where he says that what a man becomes in the future as far as health is concerned is decided sometime in the womb itself. So it all depends on how well nourished the mother is and how well nourished the fetus is going to be based on the nourishment of the mother. Unfortunately, according to the latest statistics, approximately maybe 40% of the under 5 children are undernourished. Now, what do you say by undernourishment? It may be stunting, less height. It may be wasting, where there is no muscle mass. And accompanying, they can have underweight itself. So these would be reflected in the child itself, under 5, and under 5 nutrition for children is taken as one of the indicators of a nation's health status.
So you are saying, if you look at that indicator in India, our current kind of statistics say that about 40% of children below 5 years.
Yeah, in fact, what I would say is that WHO and the World Organization, it has put up something called your Millennium Development Goals, which are supposed to have ended with 2015. And they have set a target of about 10 of those goals worldwide for all the countries to actually follow and attain. But what is happening is, they have found that it is not possible for all the countries to achieve this. So now they have been changed to Sustainable Development Goals with a target of 2030. It is not that countries have not achieved. Yes, there are countries which have achieved, but India is somewhere in between, where we have some unfinished business and a few like the infant mortality rate has been brought down. The number of the safe drinking water outlets has also increased. So there have been some good deliverables as far as India is concerned, but we still have a lot to do at least 50% of the goals can be achieved by 2030.
2030.
So one of them is giving proper nutrition to the whole population as such.
Okay. So this brings us to the interesting question. One side, we are having a historical problem of undernourishment. But then recent studies or press reports and others say that we are becoming the world capital of diabetics. So which means you have obese people. How do you explain this part?
So I'll give you one interesting statistic. India has about 120 crore population.
Yeah.
Now, 10 to 15% of them are overweight or obese.
10 to 15% or overweight
Of the population.
or obese?
Yeah. And one third of the undernourished people live in India. That is the paradigm. It is a paradox.
Paradox.
One third of the population undernourished, 15% of the population is overnourished. Now, this is what I talked to you about, the very tricky situation or a very funny situation that India finds in. Now, what is happening is, after the economy opening up, where so many multinationals have come in, the lifestyles have changed. So, what we talk and hear about nowadays is about lifestyle change. What we had as children, both you and me, of a balanced diet where we had a curry, a vegetable, some pulse, dal, and then you had some chutney, which was mostly again a vegetable. And then you have curds.
Yeah.
And then this was on a background of a cereal, rice or wheat. That was a very wholesome food or a balanced diet. Along the way, when we shifted gears and we came into these lifestyle changes, where they are heavily loaded in favor of either lot of cereal or energy dense foods. And this is what is causing the problem of obesity. There's a difference between nutrition and food.
Okay.
Food is quantity.
Quantity. Okay.
Nutrition is quality.
So there should be a balance between these two.
Exactly. So, suppose you go by the roadside, you have this roadside street foods. Now, in 20 rupees, he gives you a full meal. There will be a huge amount of rice, on which there will be some amount of curry, maybe some dal. Now, what is it? 80% is made up of rice only. His stomach is getting filled, but there is no quality there. It is quantity is taken care of. Now, when you actually add the pulses, vegetables and curd, then it becomes a wholesome thing. Then that is, so the nutrition is quality, food is quantity.
Yeah. This is an interesting point. We need to balance between food and nutrition. Our stomach should be full, but also nutritious. We'll take a small break. The conversation is very interesting. We'll continue after this break. Welcome to this episode of Eureka. We are having a very interesting conversation with Dr. P. Uday Kumar, Senior Deputy Director of National Institute of Nutrition. Before the break, he was pointing out that we have to make a clear distinction between food and nutrition. Food is quantity, nutrition is quality. We need to make a balance. It was a very interesting point that you made. I think our audience would be benefited by that. Let me ask you another question, which is also bogging down many of our audience, which is about fat. And today people are talking about carbohydrates or energy-rich food. Once upon a time, people were told that avoid fat. I mean, don't eat fat, don't eat oil, don't eat this, that, etc. And then today, many people are coming around and saying that, oh, well, that's okay. I mean, that's not the major problem. The major problem is don't eat too much of cereals. What's happening here? As a scientist, how would you explain this change?
There are two aspects to this. One is the type of food that you take, and second thing is your physical activity also.
Okay.
That is something which has become a casualty in this modern day life. And that is what doctors call, or nutritionists call, or for scientists call about sedentary way of life.
Sedentary way of life,
Yes.
which has become kind of our way of life today.
You are mostly sitting behind a desk.
Yeah.
So if you take a software engineer, he is mostly on the computer. He is working from home or he is working from outside, but still he is with his laptop or his desktop. You take the IAS officers, they are also behind. So most of us, and because of the availability of so many schemes and mobility has become less, we tend to walk less.
Okay.
Now, there was a time when my grandfather used to have a palmful of ghee in every meal. And then he used to walk 10 kilometers a day,
Okay.
which used to get dissipated. I mean, it used to get petered out. We do have it, you don't do the exercise, then you are in trouble.
you're-
Because what happens is, whatever the body doesn't need, it stores as fat. None of the fats that are available in the market, oils, you have two different types, sources. One is vegetable source of oils,
Yeah.
then you have the animal source of oils.
Yeah.
Right? So, vegetable sources are much beneficial as compared to the animal sources. Not that they are bad, but what is happening, there is no single source of oil which can take care of the entire gamut of nutrients that are required for the body. So, you need to have a combination of them.
Combination.
Yeah. So, one of the what should I say, I wouldn't say recommendations, but suggestions which NID given is blending of oils.
Blending of oils. Don't use one type of oil, but blend some 2-3 different kinds
Yes,
of oil.
it helps, because one particular, if you take sunflower oil,
Yeah.
you take rice bran oil, you take palm oil. Now, these are three different oils from three different sources, which are having some good things in them, but they're deficient in some. So, when you actually blend them, then it gets equated out. So, you tend to have a better source of fat. Now, one thing, when we talk about the energy source, 1 gram of fat will give you 9 kilocalories.
Okay.
1 gram of cereal will give you only 4 kilocalories. So, between them, fat is more energy dense. So, that is one of the reasons why they talk about taking good fat, and you talk about your cholesterols, your lipid levels being monitored every now and then. So, I would come back to the same notion of having a balanced diet.
Balanced diet.
Anything in moderation. Moderation is the key to it. I would, one of my pet statements would, every food is a poison, only the dose matters.
Only the dose matters. That's
So,
interesting.
you have nutritious food, but you are having it day in and day out. Probably a time will come when you will definitely have the side effects of it, because it is, you are taking more than what the body requires, and it is getting converted into fat. And as we know, fat, that means what, the obesity is one of the reasons why you are having high burden of diabetes mellitus, cancers, right? Plus hypertension to some extent, heart problems, strokes. But do we say that fat is bad? No.
We can't.
We need fat for our energy, because it is energy dense. 1 gram you take, you will get that much of energy. And the body needs energy to grow or to function. So, nothing is bad. It is a question of moderation that needs to be adopted by the people to have a healthy lifestyle.
It's an interesting point that you made. Remember, every food is a poison, but only the dosage matters. That's an interesting point. Let's shift to our next question, which is about your work. You have worked on cancer and food. Can you tell us about what was your work on?
Yeah, we had done this small project on mainly diet and cancer, and where we looked into the type of dietary fatty acids that were going into the food.
Okay.
Now, this experiment was done on mice, and then we have developed breast tumors, and then saw what is the effect of the diet, individual fatty acid being fed to the animals. And what we observed is that like there are different types of fatty acids. You have saturated fats, you have unsaturated fats, and you have trans fats.
Trans fats.
Saturated fats mainly in ghee. So that is the reason why, and they are difficult to metabolize, and these are the ones which don't get metabolized so fast. Then you have the unsaturated fats, again polyunsaturated fatty acids and monounsaturated fatty acids, and finally trans fats. Trans fats are also called as partially hydrogenated vegetable oils.
Vegetable oils.
Example is your vanaspati.
Vanaspati.
At one time in my childhood, it used to come out as dalda.
Yeah.
Okay. So these are your trans fatty acids have been implicated in so many conditions. So much so now the government has come out with a regulation that a particular food should not have more than 10% of trans fats in its content.
Okay.
So this is the FSSAI, that is Food Safety Standards Authority of India, under the Ministry of Health, it has set up that particular cutoff of 10%. Now they want to bring it slowly down to about 5% also, which based on the work that is coming, that is going on, and based on recommendations that come, that would also be a possibility in the near future. Now what we have observed is that saturated fats and N6 PUFA, the type of the cancer that is developing, breast cancer, and the incidence of cancer is the same as much as trans fats.
Okay.
So saturated fats and trans fats, they are causing cancer, but in the group which we have given N3 fatty acids, which are supposed beneficial fatty acids, the cancer incidence was less. This was observation.
This you have done in a mice study.
In the rat, yes, mice study, rat study, and we are in the process of actually disseminating this knowledge, whatever we have done with respect to nutrition and various other conditions that, health conditions that occur. So this is one of our observations with respect to the type of fatty acid which was given and the development of breast cancer.
Interesting point. This is many times not seen by people. The research we think happens somewhere and it gets published, but then there is a hidden way it actually affects you and me. For example, when FSSI sets standards, that standards are set based on studies like this. We thank you for this very wonderful information. We will take a very short break and then we will come back and discuss about the role played by National Institute of Nutrition in nation building. Welcome back to this episode of Eureka. We are having a very interesting conversation with Dr. P. Uday Kumar, Senior Deputy Director, National Institute of Nutrition. Very interesting. How did your passion for doing research came about?
To tell you very frankly, nutrition in the medical curriculum is not given that much of a focus as any other clinical condition. Whether it be a pregnancy-related issue, or a medical condition like hypertension, heart attack, or for that matter stroke, paralysis.
Yeah.
No. So nutrition was a very small component of the entire, even in my MD days when I was doing my pathology, it was very small. So what actually hit it is where I had come for a short-term training in National Nutrition on on hearsay,
Okay.
word of mouth.
Somebody told you and then you just dropped in here.
So I came to know of it that I am born and brought up in Hyderabad. And then to tell you very frankly, only in my MD days when I came to that level did I know that there were so many national institutes located on one single street of Hyderabad.
Okay.
Wherein you have starting with NIN, and then you have IICT, you have CCMB, you have NGRI, you have CFTRI, and then you have Survey of India. I mean, all in one street, across the road. So within a span of maybe 2-3 kilometers. So when one of my colleagues actually told me that there is something special going on in pathology in a place called National Institute of Nutrition, I said nutrition and pathology don't go together. And that's where I actually went back to my book and then saw what is nutrition written in pathology textbook. Of course, it was about 20 pages, but then it was really informative. And when I came here and I saw the facilities, that is where I thought that, yes, probably, and then there's a division of pathology totally dedicated to research work. And I felt that probably this is a place where there's so much of going on. And at that time, the former director, Dr. Shashikaran, he was heading the division. And he was one person who actually, I would say, encouraged me. I wouldn't say pushed me, but then he encouraged me to have a look at it. And that's how...
Did a friendly persuasion.
Yeah. And then at that time there were some openings, and then I put it, and this is my 25th year in NIN, and I feel very fortunate that I think half of my life has spent here.
Very
And,
interesting
no
point.
regrets.
It's 25 years of your service in NIN, and within a few years, in 2018, National Institute of Nutrition is going to celebrate its centenary.
Yeah.
Now, reflecting upon this institute, if you want to place 3 major achievements of this institute, what would you put as?
What is in the public perspective, I'll put the first one.
Yeah.
The first and foremost I would put is your iodized salt.
Okay. Iodized salt?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this particular issue came up because there were so many thyroid problems which are going on, which were again affecting the maternal health and the fetus health and the child's health. Of course, this problem, hypothyroidism, that is less amount of thyroid. Remember that thyroid hormone is one which has effect on each and every cell of the body.
Yeah.
And then this is being produced with iodine molecules. So iodine is the basic raw material for the thyroid hormone to be produced. Now that being said, when the government has realized that there are a lot of hypothyroidism cases, the less amount of thyroid being produced in the body and resultant health effects, so which was much more rampant in the sub-Himalayan belt, more so towards North India and the Northeast. So that is when they felt that there should be a policy. Now I would proudly say that NIN has developed a particular kit which makes it so easy to detect whether iodine is there in the salt or not.
Okay.
We have a portable kit.
Okay.
Continuing the same vein, I would say that now NIN has developed something called double fortified salt, wherein iron and iodine are there in the salt.
Okay, because anemia is also a major problem.
Anemia
in
is a
India.
huge problem, huge problem. I had mentioned it earlier that stunting, wasting and anemia. So anemia because of purely iron deficiency. So that being rampant across the population, almost 50 to 60% of the population are anemic. Even though they are mildly anemic, they are anemic.
Anemic.
So to take care of this, now NIN has developed a technology where iron and iodine, it is called double fortified salt, and it has been tested, and then it has been handed over to private manufacturers also. And as far as my knowledge is concerned, it is there in the market in a few areas, as Tata people have taken up the production, and there is something called Tata Plus. Now one of the things what the MOU which the government has done is 20% of the produce should go into the PDS system.
Okay.
So that is the mandate, or that is the condition that has been put for the
Technology transfer.
technology transfer, which was done free of cost. Okay, this is one. Second achievement of NIN is wherein National Anemia Control Program, National Goiter Control Program, right, National Blindness Control Program, these are all based on research what NIN has done. Achievement I would say is that there is something called nutritive value of Indian foods,
Okay.
recommended dietary allowances, and finally dietary guidelines for Indians. These are the three recommendations from NIN. When we come to nutritive value of Indian foods, this work was done about 30 years back, where they analyzed about 300 different food samples across the country, and then 30 parameters done, and that is available as a book, low cost publication, wherein different parameters like what is the content of carbohydrate, protein, right, and then your vitamins, different things. So entire analysis is there. Plus now 30 years later, recently in the past 5 years, we have revisited the whole thing, where we have picked up 450 different samples of food from across the country, 6 regions, analyzed them with 90 parameters, including how much of zinc will be there, how much of selenium will be there.
Including the micronutrients.
Exactly. And 450 foods, 90 parameters for each food. I'll share one small anecdote, small interesting fact is, do you know that there are 21 different types of brinjals in the country?
21 different types of brinjal.
Yeah.
Okay.
And each one we have actually analyzed the whole gamut of things, all the 90 parameters.
Okay.
So when we went to different regions, we picked up the samples and then the analysis has been done. That is a huge wealth of information. And recommended dietary allowances, how much should you take? What is the allowance that is needed? Recommended. And finally, the dietary guidelines for Indians. Recently, our Director General, ICMR, we come under ICMR, Indian Council of Medical Research, she has recently launched an app which is about the dietary guidelines of Indians, which are available on Google Play Store, and you can actually download it from mygov.in also, free of cost. So the entire app is available. There are 15 different guidelines. You go to that guideline, tap on it, it will again open up and go deeper and deeper. So this is available free of cost as an app on Google Play Store as well as mygovernment.in. In future, we would also like to do the same thing and make this available, dissemination of our the research that is done here. What are all the public health important information, we want to disseminate it very soon. We are going to develop different apps and then put it across to the nation.
It's very interesting. Let me come back to important issue. You stumbled into in this institute when somebody told you that there is some training here, and then you joined it, and then you got benefited by this institute. What kind of training facilities you offer to the nation?
NIN has different training programs, and some are going on a regular basis, and we do also take up ad hoc programs based on the requirement of a company or for that matter an institution. So till 2000, actually NIN was the WHO Southeast Asian region certified center.
Okay.
I mean, that being said, we have a postgraduate program, MSc Applied Nutrition. We have a postgraduate certificate training program who can take it after their postgraduation is over. That is PGCN we call, Postgraduate Certificate in Nutrition, which is actually a 10-week program.
Okay.
This is mainly for in-service people or for people who can't spare that much of time. They have an interest in knowing what is going on in nutrition or to develop some amount of knowledge that will be useful for them. And for students who have finished their BSc, whether it is MBBS or BSc Nursing or BSc Home Science, BSc Biochemistry, BSc Nutrition, these people have a postgraduate course, MSc Applied Nutrition course, which is for a span of 2 years.
2 years, okay.
In this 2 years, we orient them both to the hospital side, we orient them to the lab side, and then we give them holistic training so that tomorrow, depending on their interest or their choice, they can go into research side or they can go into the outside world.
Outside world. Interesting. So, NIN also has quite a lot of educational opportunities. Visit their website, we will be able to get more information. In fact, every day when you cook food, when you put salt in it, in India most likely it is iodized salt, and in a very unseen way, NIN is there in everyday part of our life. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being with us in this show.
Thank you.
We enjoyed this conversation, and we will continue this program next week with another interesting expert. Thank you.